This week in League, the effectiveness of prayer circles questioned as God trolls Penrith with a fuck-off-sized storm on the eve of the grand final rematch.
West Tigers under investigation for sex trafficking after a young Dane lorry is shipped to Campbelltown and repeatedly fucked.
For the first time in NRL history, a banner looks certain to be a club's best defensive player.
Plus, we look ahead to all the action for round 3 of the 2021 NRL season.
All that more this week in League. Welcome to episode 384 of This Week in League. I'm Nate.
And I'm Jay.
And I am a potato clapper. Named Glenn.
And it's funny. I had to edit a bit last week when we did that the I'm Nate, etc. I was like, just out of habit, like after he said I'm Jay, I could hear I started to speak because because this wasn't used to. I was like, oh no, that's right. You've got to wait for the other one. There's 3 now. How we doing, boys?
How the fuck do Mormons do it?
Well,
ding dong.
Well, I imagine it's a feature of their magic underwear.
What? That's how they keep all of their multiple fucking partners in check.
Yeah, they fucking. Well, no, you've seen that show. There was a reality show. It's probably not on anymore. But I mean, I remember years ago, probably a decade ago. And this guy, there's like a Mormon family, and this guy just kept marrying more of them, and he had like a house in a cul-de-sac, and he just put them in the next house and then another house, and it was like the whole end of the street was just different houses with the wives and the kids of that wife.
Oof.
And this guy's just free to fucking rotate around. He crashed wherever he had like 5 or 6 houses on the end of a cul-de-sac and at the back of fucking Utah. And the thing is, all these houses, I mean, this guy was like a construction guy or something, but fuck me. I mean, he must have been doing some construction because all these houses were enormous fucking mansions. And, 5 of them.
Yeah, wow.
Or maybe 4. So, anyway.
Jesus.
That's enough about this week in Mormonism.
This week in religion.
21 Fuck Street.
Oh, fuck. Okay, let's look at some news, shall we? And the first one, we had our mate, Jared Hayne. He has been, in my opinion, surprisingly, not because he didn't do it, but because just the way the system works.
And for regular listeners, let's just delve a little bit into that. On our digital members episodes, we are lucky enough to have a couple of the boys in blue who explained a lot of this stuff to us when it was going on. And one of the things they mentioned was how tough it is to get things done on a retrial. Yes. One of the main factors being that actual testimony from live people isn't there for the jury. It's all playing of pre-recorded testimony. So
they'll play the recorded testimony from the previous trial. And that kind of prevents the members of the new jury from forming that kind of bond with the victim.
Yep.
And so it's highly unlikely. And even like the morning before the verdict came down, one of our This Week in Popo guys was actually sent me a message and said it's come back today. It's going to be hung again. And so suffice to say, was pretty surprised a couple of hours later when it came back and they actually nailed him. So
that's it.
So he's staring down the barrel of actual jail time. I mean, I think the judge in question said that it was inevitable. There was 100% going to be jail time. A custodial sentence was inevitable. Judge Helen Syme told the court, and so in early May he's going to face a sentencing hearing, and he was found guilty of sexually assaulting the woman when he performed oral and digital sex on her at a Newcastle home on NRL Grand Final night in September 2018. They accepted the woman's evidence that she refused to consent to the sexual acts after she discovered Hayne had a taxi waiting outside to take him back to Sydney.
Fuck, I'll tell you what, September's not a good month for planes.
No. There's a couple of them been grounded. And Yeah, yeah. So, and then did you guys see the transcripts of the phone conversations? Like, she had made the complaint to the police, and then the NRL were investigating it before Hayne got wind of it, and then he gets wind of it, and so he's like, but this stage, so he's talking to friends about it on the phone, but she's already complained to the police about it, days or if not weeks earlier. So they're already tapping his shit.
Yeah,
And
wow.
so he's on the phone to guys like Mitchell Pearce going, is, this fucking psycho and, and all this sort of stuff. And, as I look at it, there's Snapchat messages now that have come to light today.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he hasn't, true colours come out. I mean, like, let's not, worry about the guilt or innocence of other criminal situations.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was that allegation in the States that he left over there from his time in in attempts to get into the NFL.
Yep.
And
yeah.
So now he can go to his new house, and they can reclaim the mortgage or the deeds and out there at Campbelltown. And he's got a new house now. It's the big house. And
Tigers probably aren't winning any games there either.
Well, no, and
the only thing I wanted to say is, he's obviously been found guilty, and the jury's taken the evidence, and the judge has taken the evidence into consideration. But outside of the legal process, he should go to jail for being a piece of shit. In the fact that, consensual or not, he's still hooked up with another woman while his partner is heavily pregnant at home. Which is that's fucking ordinary in anyone's language, in my opinion. And I just think that the fact that his profile isn't what it was has probably gone some way towards this. Like you said, surprisingly, he's been found guilty. I think if his profile was still 2-time Dally M winner, or he was at the height of his career, I wouldn't have been surprised to have seen a different result, to be quite honest.
I hear what you're saying.
I would hope that wouldn't be the case, though.
Yeah, my hope is that it's not so much his lack of profile that's brought this to where it is, but more a changing social attitude towards the issue, where previously there's been a fair bit, and fuck me, still is, but there's, even within the legal system, has been a little bit of that, boys will be boys. And, you invited him round, love, what do you expect? And there was no peen. So, really, was it? And I think now, and there's shit going on in fucking governments and other businesses and all of this stuff, that now it's like, well, yeah, no, none of it's okay. And it may be that a decent-sized scalp brings everyone, further into focus, or brings everyone's views on it further into focus. So,
fair.
My comment on this has been always, even with the NRL players, the fucking redemption shit. Now, there needs to be a path back. I don't believe that anyone, especially those that have been in prison, should be denied on getting out and living a life. I'm glad that Jared Hayne's probably too old to get any sort of redemption within the game.
Yep.
But for those sick fucks that do, like, Fergo and others, there's no professional sport redemption story for the victims.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll echo what I've always said. I would really like for the game to have, as something it focuses on, a fund or something it does, not to say that they're terrible, but to say that they accept that this is a problem in society, and they accept that as a part of society, they are going to have a proportionate number of the people associated with them as offenders.
Yeah.
And so here we've got this, and this is a victim fund. And so then instead of paying hush money to people that are bashed allegedly in fucking stairwells by people who allegedly have a fondness for head fashion,
for shilling beanies,
head warmth fashion merchants.
Yes.
There can actually be some good done for victims. So anyway, we live in hope.
Yep. So he's looking at a maximum of 14 years. I do think that he'll probably get on whatever the lower edge of that is. I'm sure that if he is financially able to, and I'd imagine he would be, he would be, looking to seek an appeal. But he's almost beyond that point though, because he at this point to get an appeal, he has to find errors in the in the way the case, in the way the last trial was handled and things like that, which is not necessarily the case.
Yep.
More bad behaviour. Bronson Jerry handed a 4-year ban for failing a drugs test. Now he was his actions were described as at best grossly negligent. So back in November, and we were still actually on the air last year when this happened due to the delayed and lengthy season due to COVID. But he was derailed when he returned a positive test back then. It was found to contain various performance-enhancing substances, including testosterone. He'll now be taken off the Sharks playing roster, and he was provisionally suspended in May last year and has not played at all since. His suspension will be backdated to the day his A sample was taken, meaning he will not be able to run onto an NRL field again until the 2024 season. They found he intentionally took testosterone in late 2019, knowing the substance was either banned or that there was a serious risk that it was banned. They also found that his actions were, on his own evidence, at best grossly negligent, and the sanction imposed is the presumptive 4-year ban for use of serious performance-enhancing substances. Other than testosterone, 3 other substances prohibited by the World Anti-Doping Agency and the NRL's anti-doping policy were found in his system.
Jesus.
So,
fucking
look, I guess for him, the bright side is he's only 20. So, plenty of years left if he's good enough to make a return to the game.
Yep.
However, I'm glad that someone actually got a proper fucking suspension from doping, to be honest.
So
we have had the Shandor Earl example.
Yeah, but it was all part of that murky, Sharks situation as well, and it was like, they sort of came to a deal and he didn't, and that was like the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. But as a test case, with his position, do you think he comes back into the game? Like, is he at a higher level caliber of player than Shandy Earl? Who
probably. I don't particularly think Shandor Earl is amazing.
No,
and Shandy had
longer, and he did make his re-entrance into the game. Mm-hmm. Playing for the Storm. So
that's it. And he had more years in the league before being done.
Yeah.
Than Bronson. But
Tim Simona had a path back, betting on games.
Yeah, but I don't know if his path back is fully back. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a difference to being allowed to play Reggies.
He's taking the path of least resistance back to Manly.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I'm not gonna bet against bet against the lad.
Pardon the pun.
I mean, if he's prepared to take a punt, then I'll back him to the hilt. And I think that he's definitely got the form to storm home and first past the post is a big winner.
Can I just point that out? That's probably the most damning evidence of just what a fucking terrible defender David Nofaluma is. Right? When that club has a systemic history of players letting in tries on purpose for financial gain, and no one's ever even thought to accuse Noffa of that.
Noffa's as pure as the driven snow. He does it for nothing.
and it's crazy when we're talking about the same club, and the same club also had, let's not forget, Blake Ashford as well, doing the same thing. So
poor old Simona was just a patsy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they're going down for the real kingpin.
The worrying thing about it was that don't ask, don't tell culture. Because the thing that sticks in my mind from when it first came out was that everyone knew. The comments coming around were that, well, everyone knew. Like there was a story about how he went away one summer weighing a certain amount and then came back after a pre-season 15 kegs heavier and
look, we've all done that. Or not shredded. I've had some solid pre-seasons in my time.
But that thing of, well, and I know, you don't want to instigate a dobbing culture or that, but especially in sport with performance enhancing drugs, the fact that everyone knew, in inverted commas, is very concerning to me. That there isn't a culture of the club first of all going, hey, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there shouldn't be penalties for a club regardless of how it happens. I'd fucking love to see that if the NRL put in and said, if a player of yours is caught on PEDs, you will have this financial penalty imposed on you regardless. If they return a positive sample, it's on your head. How fucking hard would clubs work then to educate players on it not being okay? Yeah, but I
mean, they could educate them, and as 15 clubs do, and with the exception of Cronulla, I guess, the clubs can not run a systemic doping program within the club. But outside, if it's Mad Monday and then player fucks off to Thailand or whatever, and gets on the juice for a month, and then comes back, they might not pass the eye test or whatever when they see him, when they rock up to preseason training on the first day. They go, oh fuck, you bulked up. But really, what are they gonna do outside of they run their own testing?
I'm not saying they should run their own testing. I'm just saying that if there was an incentive for them to not have players that play for them caught doping, and maybe the only way out of those penalties is if they self-report the player.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. What do they do? Because then it gives the club the temptation to further their own best interests, where they could self-report and deal with the media scrutiny and all that sort of thing as they run through the process and get banned for 4 years, or they could stand the player down for internal discipline, whatever.
That's
until until they're not going to piss hot, and then they're not getting 4 years, and they might be 3 months or something.
But
so
it would at least stop this culture of Bronson's doing it privately and everyone knows.
Okay.
There's also some onus on the, if not the club and the administration and the board within the club and certainly the coaching staff. What about the senior players? This is a young guy that's come through. He looks up to those senior players in the playing group,
well, have you not seen the GIFs on the internet? The senior players in that group sit behind a desk with a suit and tie on, squirting syringes in the air.
I mean, we talk about players not being role models, and that's that is or isn't what it is. However, when you're looking up to a senior player, one of the senior players in the history of your club, who has served time for juicing, well,
couldn't even take him under his wing to show him how to get away with it. He's completely been left hung out to dry.
In that club, you walk into their fucking medical room and Brian Brown's in the back singing Kokomo. There's that many fucking cocktails going on.
Yes.
What a shame. But, fucking make your bed.
You reap what you sow.
That's it. Any other news stories that you guys want to talk about? I saw one that just came up recently saying that the Storm are looking to hit back and try and retain Craig Bellamy. Now it sort of felt like that he was going to come over to the Broncos in like maybe a director sort of role and sit over the top of Kevy and try and rebuild the sinking vessel. However, then we saw the next thing that came out was that the Sharks wanted Bellamy, and there was a chance that they'd get him in there as coaching, and now the Storm have tabled a deal that is 1 year of coaching, and then 5 further years in whatever role he wants.
Jesus. Seems fairly open-ended.
So the Broncos have apparently offered him a 10-year deal, which is obviously fairly attractive. But at the end of this 6-year deal that the Storm are proposing, he'll be 69. So
nice,
exactly. It's a nice deal. But yeah, so it's our head coach for 2022 and a consultancy role for the next 5 years, and apparently they feel confident that after throwing this one at him, they can get him to finish his career with the Storm.
Has anybody looked into? Because you know how we have caps now for football departments.
Yeah. Yep.
At how that actually works, where let's say you have an organisation like the Broncos, and I'm only using them as an example because of their structure.
Yep.
Where Bellamy could be employed by an entity within the Broncos, one that doesn't have the NRL license or run the NRL club.
Yep.
And could be paid feasibly whatever. But then he has a consulting gig, and just as you mentioned there to Melbourne, it would be a consulting option. So he has a consulting gig to the rugby league club that manages the football team. And that consulting gig is worth $80,000 a year to him.
Yeah.
Is that $80,000 a year?
It's worth whatever it takes to keep him underneath the football department expenditure limits. Yeah.
Is that possible? Or would they say that your full wage, from all other consulting needs to be taken into account?
I don't believe that that's the case because I think that that would affect you people like, for example, Matty Johns, who does half coaching at clubs, has his TV show deals and everything like that, and that's a similar situation you're talking about. I mean, let's say his primary employer is Fox.
Yep.
And then he's getting paid an X amount of money. And I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, but in this instance, his primary employer doesn't have anything to do with the club, whereas with the Broncos one, it would.
Yeah, but with the Broncos, I mean, why wouldn't there just be? Why couldn't someone like
a Thoroughbred's
corporation employ him to be like a
motivational coach,
motivation, or business development, because people want to fucking shake hands with Craig Bellamy, while he's signing deals, something like that.
That's it.
And while it's not related to rugby league or whatever, I mean, I don't know how you can police that. I mean, it's not like there's restrictions in the same way that there's third party things and there needs to be arm's length and all this sort of thing. I just think that it's just you just get away with it.
How demasculating for Kevy Walters though. Like, he's only just taken the gig on, and they're already looking for contingency plans to prop him up, with a Bellamy.
Well, they wouldn't suggest it to be propping up. They'd be suggesting it to be, a winning team, a proven team where he was training under Bellamy in the past, and this is an opportunity so that he can concentrate on the day-to-day coaching of the side, whilst Bellamy comes in with the Gus Gould mandate to restructure the football operations.
I've spent some time in senior management, so I can spin some shit to incompetent cunts. Don't get me wrong. I know what you're saying.
Yes.
But I just think Kevy, as a professional rugby league coach, I don't know if you could cop that. From a Bellamy perspective, surely the Storm deal, if only for the lack of upheaval required for a man of his tender years, to take a fairly sizable handshake into retirement. He'll be pushing 70. You can't go on forever. And I would imagine if they want him to stay there for that 6 years, I would imagine that number's going to be fairly sizable. So
I don't think it would be hard to sell it to Kevy, especially when there has been the Gus Gould example. The fact that Kevy would would see that as Bellamy being brought in to do things like shore up the junior development, make sure that, you know, Mal down at the Titans isn't poaching anyone that should be a Broncos kid. Like, that's not a hard sell to Kevy. What I think will make the difference is what Bellamy actually wants. And typically, within individuals, the older you get, the more you seek familiarity.
Yeah.
You know, there was talk a little while ago that Bellamy was looking at going to a Queensland-based club because that's where his child and his grandchild were, which I believe turned out to be not accurate. Do you remember that?
Recall.
There was something that kiboshed that, but I would suggest this comes down to Craig Bellamy having anything in him that is an inkling to achieve elsewhere, and I think the older you get, the less that matters. And it is more around familiarity, being comfortable in what you're doing. Obviously, you have that need to be challenged, that sort of personality type always does. But I'm not sure going to a brand new city, brand new club and learning everything from the ground up is the way to do it. And also, if you're Bellamy, would you turn up somewhere after being at the Storm where out of all the clubs in the NRL, they seem to have an amazing grasp on our board and our back office? They run the business. The football is left to the football department. Do you think the Broncos board's going to behave like that? Knowing who's on it?
No. I would tend to think not.
Yeah. So I don't know how it's an attractive proposition for Bellamy.
Outside of money.
Yeah.
Outside of money. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Because and yeah, it just comes down to whether, you know, like, does he need to? Is he driven by the thought of solving a big challenge in his final position?
Yeah, that's it.
You know, in the game.
Yeah,
I think he could equally find as rewarding challenge, if not more rewarding challenge, in unearthing his successor and guiding them through to the next era of the Melbourne Storm whilst maintaining the same high level of success at the club.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, I mean, as far as, you know, personal achievements and accolades for himself, what really does he need? I mean, he's won enough premierships. He's taken the Storm to the mountaintop, and then through the retirements of all the players that got them there. And he's got them, you know, firing, you know, pretty well so far, you know, this early stage of the season. So it looks like he's on his way to guiding them through the final portion of the biggest transition they've ever had to undertake.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's it.
One more year of coaching, and then 5 years of
whatever
the fuck he wants down there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Any other news stories you want to talk about? Oh, there's nothing else I really...
The only one I wanted to quickly touch on was the fucking farce that is the Dally M. Did we see
Take
this
me
shit?
Through it. Are you talking about in terms of the votes from the Tigers game the other day?
The votes from the Tigers game, there seems to be this trend now of having to find a player on the losing team. Someone having to find a player on the losing team to give some votes to.
Yeah.
Now, I don't disagree that sometimes, and perhaps more often than not, a player on a losing team is one of the more effective players on the field.
Mm-hmm.
However, the couple of times it's happened, one was a Broncos game and the other one was the Tigers game. Complete fucking blowouts.
Yes.
So much so that one of the judges, I believe it was Mr. Funnyman himself, Sam Thaiday, thought that the fullback of a team that got pumped by more than 40 was more deserving of a Dally M point than the half on the other team that had 47 try assists. Yes. You know, albeit a couple of those were finished off by some other people's brilliance, and he was lucky to get them. But is it now just becoming just another way to create debate and anger and generate more clicks on news stories? Is that where the Dally M's are?
I don't think the people that put the votes in that fashion, I don't think they're trying to fire up clicks. Personally themselves. I just think that they are. Look, it's the same as judging in every single sport, and it's a subjective thing. And when there's not enough guidelines around the judging, well, you know what? Even when there are guidelines around the judging, the fact that the subjective nature of it means that there's always some sort of internal, inherent biases that means judges are never going to get it 100% right.
Yep.
But I mean, that game was that game was the one that blew up because it was like such a black and white case of ridiculousness. When of course Teddy's going to get 3 points. Of course you're going to throw some to BMOS because he's got a fuck ton of tries as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you could work your way down the line for the Roosters side.
Yeah.
And sure, you have to have Kiri in there, but I mean, there's still probably another 3 or 4 Roosters that you could have selected. And
the fucking Roosters water boy did more than Dane Laurie did that.
If there's anyone, and I'm a, as a Tigers fan and a Dane Laurie sympathiser, if there's a human being.
They call them. You've been away from the game for a while, mate. But they call them simps.
Oh man, I've got so much to learn. Thank God I've got you two to educate me. Got a long road ahead.
Well, that's better than I thought. I was expecting. Is that cartoon with the yellow handle on it?
Anyone that saw a West Tigers player that was within the top 3 players on the field in that game on Sunday afternoon should be taken into a field and have a single bullet inserted to the base of their skull at a rapid rate of knots.
Do you know what I would love? If the Dally M, and I had this conversation with somebody today, how good would this be if every year the people that got Dally M votes were the Australian men's coach, the Australian women's coach, and the 4 respective state of origin coaches?
I don't hate it.
And they're banned from discussing it if they have media engagements. So, Mal being the Australian coach, often appears on Fox as a talking head. Mal, in your duty as a Dally M voter, you're not allowed to discuss it. If they ask you things, you just say, I'm not allowed to discuss that.
Yep. There's plenty of things you can have an opinion on.
That's it.
The favourite or the progression of the Dally M voting is not one of those things.
That's it. Pull it away from yet another fucking handhold that cunt media organisation has on the game, and actually give it back to people who, and I know there's state of origin coaches, they obviously have a massive internal love for their state.
Yep.
But I tell you what they don't have that fans do is this inability to give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that a New South Wales Origin coach would give Cameron Munster 3 Dally M points when he deserved 3 Dally M points.
Yeah.
So again, we live in hope.
Yeah, that we do. Look, it's not going to change until they just kind of scrap it and try and come up with a new way of because at the moment it's a newspaper plaything, a media organisation plaything, and it's just I think the step one, like I like your idea because step one, without sort of naming specific who the judges would be, my step one would be to have a unified. I mean, you can have a bunker, so have a unified judging panel.
Yep.
So every game is reviewed,
yes,
and judged upon by the same group of people.
That's it.
So you're getting to, so even if there are some sort of inherent biases in the judging, it's consistent across every round of the competition and every game of every round for the entire season. So the result, you think you're going to come out to at least the most consistent result,
Yeah.
And I dare say across the fullness of an entire season, you're going to get the correct result.
Yep.
doing it that way. But at the moment, I mean, if you got like fucking, Freddie Oldmate, who's just happens to be out there at the Campbelltown working for his other media job or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, you can be a judge, and then you got fucking like Sam Thaiday, like.
Yeah.
How have they not worked it out by now, though? That's the biggest question for me. Dally M's aren't a new thing.
No, well, they don't want to.
Because I think they've fucking lucked their way through it for the most part. Because for each of the years, the person that won the Dally M, it was hard to dispute that they were the premier player that season. And so they've just been in this fucking purple patch where they've had these generational talents. Like if you were going to give it to Jonathan Thurston or Cooper Cronk or fucking whoever it was hard to argue.
You can pick the top 4 guys, and if any of them won it, they probably all deserve it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Whereas last year, the fact that somehow fucking Jack Whiten won it, and I'm not saying that Jack Whiten had a poor season. He had a fantastic season.
Yep.
But it wasn't that he was obviously the best player.
There was a guy that stood out in a team, and I'm loath to give him any credit, but there's a guy that stood out in a team that won 17 fucking games in a row. Like...
Yeah.
Jerome Luai.
How has he not won it?
Exactly.
James Tamau was robbed.
So, yeah. Jesus. James Tamau, let's not get into him.
How's he going as a starting prop?
Well, he's just easing into the season.
Slightly more penetration than Luke Brooks on that fucking banner. Just slightly. Okay, previews. Let's go. First game, Thursday night. If you asked me a couple of days ago, we said, it'd be a big, one of the big clashes of the season. Now, slightly less so after today's withdrawals, but the Panthers take on the Storm at the newly crowned Blue Bet Stadium.
Comments on that, Joe?
Look, I'm going to paraphrase what Shunter put in the Facebook group. How the fuck do we set club records for the number of games won in a row, defeat everyone in front of us in a regular season, only to fail to complete the job or reach climax, and then name the stadium Blue, another word that starts with B? Like...
Yeah, and let's face it, that's what it's going to be, right? I mean, I think that the community is just going to decide that that's the name of the stadium.
Yes.
So, Blue Ball Stadium.
Although I think that's highly insensitive now for us to use that vernacular that has been employed countless times by men seeking to maintain a power dynamic where women felt obligated to provide them with sexual relief through guilt.
Blue Ball Stadium. Cancel me if you can at Blue Ball Stadium is the new venue. And the Panthers did have, at the time of the team being named, there were no changes to the 17 that started. However, the concussion protocols being what they are, Nathan Cleary has been removed from the game as of this afternoon. And I tell you, isn't it lucky that the Panthers didn't just give Matt Burton to the Doggies?
Oh, they should have let him play. Just let him play.
Fucking Gronks.
Fuck
the Storm. They lost Felice Kafusi, aka Wanda Sykes, out due to suspension, which is always going to happen. So Eisenhuth goes in, start up front, and Nico Hines came in on the bench, and it looks like Nico Hines is going to be playing the one because Pappenhausen has also been withdrawn today.
Mm.
So it's kind of taken like that top layer of sheen off the game as a contest for me, because they are two massive outs, probably the two biggest outs that each team could sustain. And So it's not going to be quite the same.
Oh,
However,
I'd suggest Munster's probably a bigger loss if he's out.
yeah, maybe, but I mean, it's the hand that Pappenhausen has played in the Storm's attack in this transitionary period. I mean, we're only talking about last week how sort of Munster hasn't been able to quite do his thing.
Situation with the Dogs, etc. How do you think he handles the occasion in such a big game?
There's one or two ways. He goes out there and does what he did last year when he had to fill in. And if you remember the beginning of the season, there was some talk about who should get the other half spot between himself and Jerome. But he goes out and is the consummate professional that he has proven to be in other games. Plays the game at a very fast pace with a lot of energy and really demands a lot from the guys around him. Or he realises finally the gravity of his fucking decisions and he goes out there and he tries to do the world's greatest tank job. Like, if the dive of Jamie Lyon and the dive of Dally Cucky Evans fucked and had a baby and it was raised by Greg Louganis, that would be the level of AIDS that Matt Burton would play with.
Problem is the ink's dry though.
Well, you know
what?
What
Does it matter if he tanks?
I'll tell you what, if the Bulldogs try to get rid of him and he just gracefully says, okay, I'll let you out, no, I think he'll go in and just handle it absolutely fine. Disrupted week for Penrith. So again, Tips is fucking nightmare. Whereas they would normally be getting set for a grand final rematch and really wanting to come out and make up in as best you can, because obviously regular season games do not equal grand finals, and anyone that fucking tells you so is fucked in the head. But the entirety of their town being underwater and half their coaching staff and players being evacuated from their homes is a fair disruption. So this one, flip a coin, and the coins come down Panthers 13 plus. Put your house on it.
I think Luai stands up to the occasion. The rematch, like you say, there's no premiership rings handed out in round 3, so no matter who you beat. So I think he really stands up to the occasion, has a big game, and I think the narrative after the game is how they've done it for the community that's doing it tough down there, and I think the Panthers will win a tight one.
What's the weather supposed to be like? Is it still going to be raining and everything?
Oh, let me consult my fucking magic.
Because I mean, as we said the
app.
other day on the recap set the other day, it's I think that the wet weather really pulled the Storm back towards Parramatta's level for that game, and played under dry circumstances. I'm not sure the Eels would have won it. So I wonder if it's going to be still wet and if it's going to impact the Storm as it did again.
Fine in 27.
So, on Thursday at 5 p.m, I've got cloudy and 25.
And isn't that just the perfect representation of what the Weather Bureau is and does?
And I'd also like to note that it will be a waxing gibbous moon.
The fuck is that? Can you say? So what was that? A waxing what?
Waxing gibbous, which is not a monkey with a smooth johnny.
I'm sure
it's not an ad.
Sure, it'll be a waxing gibbous moon if Penrith win.
It's not, it's not a week for a Manscaped ad either. I mean, that would have just been perfect on this waxing gibbous moon. Look, I think the Panthers will probably win. They've still got their best player in there, and in Luai, and I think that they're defensively they've done enough this year. I think that their defence is the part that won't completely suffer. They might find it more difficult to put on points, than they have been, but I think they'll still get it done.
Mm-hmm.
The St. George Illawarra Dragons take on the mighty Manly Sea Eagles at Wynn Stadium. Unchanged side for the Dragons. Manly have got Josh Schuster coming into the starting side, which is great, and which is not so great, Morgan Boyle joins the bench. Fucking hate this guy. I hate that. I tell you, words cannot describe. As always, who fucking knows with the? I mean, because this one thing this week in the 18 to 21 slots this week, they've got Funa, Harper, and Christian Tuipulotu from who hasn't made his first grade debut for the club yet, and so all of those guys, there's two of them that can play fullback. They can all play wing. They can all and two of them can play centre. So and one of them was a junior Kiwi centre. So hopefully that means that as we get to as we crack down and chop the squad down to 19, and then we get to the game day 17, hopefully there's a couple of those guys getting there as well. Look, even if Manly were 2-0 at this point of the season, it's unfortunate to say that Dragons' home games at Win are like one of those games that are teams have bogey games that they just never seem to win, no matter how the teams are travelling at that particular time. It's just they just never win. They just never win away to the Dragons. Never. Same. It's just the way it fucking is. So yeah. So they've got no chance of winning, historically speaking. Just like how the Sharks, even if it's their premiership year, and Manly aren't going great, they just can't beat Man. Like it's just a bogey team at a certain ground, and this is one of ours. So, I mean, put it this way. If they couldn't do a full streak, they're not going to do it with this rabble. Oof. But we shall see. It's just hard to get excited about the lineup when you know that you're not going to know what it is until an hour before the game. And I hate all the action. They just throw out the 21 players and all the action's in 18 to 21. You just don't know which one of them is going to slot in.
I defy you to get excited about this lineup no matter who takes the field, Nathan.
Well, I would be super excited if I saw Tavita Funa at fullback and Morgan Harper in there instead of Ruben Garrick, and then if I could also get him in there instead of Brad Parker, and then if I could get Christian in there instead of Garrick, I'd be fucking absolutely turgid with excitement.
I think the Dragons win this and win it well at home. I think Ben Hunt will have a big game following on from his game last week. And for Manly to win, I think it all comes down to Cherry Evans. I think he's in a bit of a rut at the moment, and he's going to have to stand up. And, he's going to have an outstanding game for Manly to have any chance, but I think the Dragons will win.
Braden Williami is in the number 17 for the Dragons. I mean, when a team really wants to lose badly enough...
Williami revenge game.
Because do you remember when he started playing, when he ended up going to Manly? I can't remember where he started, but he went some ridiculous number of games in his NRL career before he actually got over for a win. He was a legitimately cursed player. Like, it was at least 15 games, I'm sure, probably more. And so it's okay. Which hoodoo and curse is going to overcome which hoodoo and curse?
Yeah, that's it.
Let's see if he drops out. I mean, if the Dragons know what they're doing, if Hook knows what he's doing, then he's gonna swap someone else in there at 17 before they take the field. The Rabbitohs take on the Roosters at Stadium Australia. Jackson Paulo is out with concussion, so Josh Mansour, he's back on the wing after getting dropped the week before. Oof. The Roosters, Victor Radley returns from injury onto the bench. Angus Crichton is back from suspension as well. So Hutchison and Baker drop back to the reserves, and Nat Butcher to the bench. And while we're on Joseph Suwali watch, not yet.
If he was, I was going to say,
for him to have fucking debuted.
this would have been the one, but unfortunately not to be.
What a shame that the Trent didn't put him on. Just put him in the 21, just as a troll job.
It would have been fucking all time.
Yeah, and there's like have no intention of actually. And this is the thing. Like, he's gonna. When the fuck are we gonna see him? Because the Roosters' depth is such that Like, there's no pathway. There's no clear pathway for him to
absolutely no
debut
reason for him
year.
to play a second or first grade at the minute.
And unless there is an absolutely because it's not even like a state of origin situation. The
I was just about to say, there's not even rep.
They're going to lose Teddy, sure.
Yeah.
And they're going to maybe lose Kiri. But, like, when you look at their wingers and their centres, I mean, those guys aren't going anywhere except through injury.
Yeah, that's it.
And then when they do go somewhere, then you've got you guys like, Ikavalu. And I mean, there's still like a couple of drops there before they dig down. So, look, maybe if someone gets injured, maybe if like a Moz goes down, then maybe they do throw him on there just because they're like, hey, well, he's embraced and surrounded by all of our other top line guys. So what a time to bring, better time to bring him in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll take a lot for him to sort of win a spot and keep a spot. I'm going to go Roosters on this one. They look unstoppable.
I agree. I think the Roosters, based on the form over the opening couple of rounds, Rabbitohs have had patches where they look really good, but the Roosters, you're hard-pressed to tip against them the way they've been playing.
I mentioned on the first episode, for the first 3 or 4 rounds, what goes a long way to winning games is the two Fs, fitness and focus. And the Roosters at the moment look to be a cut above other teams in fitness, but especially in focus. They don't have those patches like the Bunnies do where they can go out of games. They seem to stay locked in for more of the 80 minutes than their opponents by a fair way. So yeah, I'm tipping the Roosters here. With the proviso that this is the sort of game that a Latrell can just get in and bust wide open. Yeah, for South, but I do think the Roosters will win it.
Yep. The Raiders take on the Warriors down there at GIO in Canberra. Jared Croker returns. There you go, and so that puts Seb Chris back into the 21 jersey, unfortunately, and he's been fucking killing it too. So I'm sure he'll be a fine signing for another club going forward. The Warriors, okay, so they've lost Chanel Harris-Tavita for about 12 weeks, I think.
Yeah, fuck.
So Sean O'Sullivan makes his debut at half. Bunty Afoa comes to start in the front row. Murchie on the bench, and Paul Turner and Kane Evans the reserves. Look, the Raiders have been looking pretty good so far. I mean, they were given a fairly staunch challenge in shithouse conditions with the Sharkies. I mean, it was exactly the sort of stuff the Sharks like to play in, and they gave them all they could handle. But I still think Canberra is looking pretty good at this stage. I mean, they're definitely not a finished article.
No,
but surprised by the form of Curtis Scott as well. He's actually been great. Like, great for them in the early go. I thought he was on the verge of being like a first grade sort of washout, like taken outside of the Storm system and just exposed in Canberra. But he's to his credit, he's fucking killed it this year.
I think this is the game where Canberra really put it together. As competitive as the Warriors have been, I feel like Hodgson is ready for one of those games where he just controls from start to finish, and guys like Whiten and having Croker back as well. I think his status in the club there. I think they'll take something from that, and I think Canberra will win well, and I think they'll show some pretty good form.
All right, the Broncos take on the Doggies. Suncorp Stadium, Saturday afternoon. Unchanged side for the Broncos. Doggies. Katoa returns for his second NRL game. He replaces the suspended DWZ. And Corey Waddell starts in the back row for the injured Raymond Fatala-Mariner. Joe Stimson on the bench. Marshall King to start at hooker with Katoa on the bench. Look, I feel like with their number one weapon, Raymond Fatala-Mariner, out of a side that can't actually attack anyway. Like, even though he's their number one weapon, they're still thoroughly ineffective in attack.
It's a shame. If only their coach You know, if only they could get the attacking coach from a successful club to work with them. Wouldn't their attack just fucking sing?
Well, you'd see sparkling rugby league.
Yeah.
At every juncture.
It'd be scintillating.
They'd be throwing on these fucking length of the field tries from their own 10, chancing their arm at every opportunity because attacking brilliance.
People would be saying, "Oh, Bill kick out the fucking poor man's for Taylor Mariner."
Would they really?
Well,
this is going to be the absolute worst game any of us will see for a number of years. It is going to be
This game's so bad they could have put it on Monday Night Football in 2016.
Yeah, that's it. This game it's so bad it could potentially mess with the cunt time continuum and zap us all back to 2016.
We can't use that
twice.
Can't
have like a continuum title two times in a row.
Yeah, no,
that just doesn't happen. But let's look at the implications of this game. Okay, so this is the Broncos taking on the Doggies at home. Next game for the Broncos: Storm,
loss,
Rabbits,
loss,
Penrith,
anal,
Eels.
Loss.
Titans.
Loss.
Cowboys. And that's taking us up to round 9. And then Magic Weekend Manly. So there's every opportunity for the Broncos. If they don't win this game, they could drop the next 7 easily. Yeah. They're all harder than this game.
Yeah. Fuck.
So... yeah, with the possible exception of the Cowboys, but obviously they'll have Tamalolo back by then, and then by round 10, surely Manly will get a game or two out of Tommy Turbo by then, so they'll be fucking firing at the best teams. So,
look, I think we should stay realistic. It's feasible that the Cowboys will beat them because the Cowboys always want to get up for the Broncos. I'm not sure there's any hope that Manly beat anyone this year. I don't see Manly winning a game all season. You cunts are all fucked.
Wow, it's a big statement.
Not winning a game. Yeah,
not
winning a game.
They've got to play the Tigers.
That's how little I think of Manly.
Oh, dear.
Dane Laurie with a hat trick.
Wow. I love it. I'm not going to argue with it.
I like it when people make big declarations like that have zero chance of coming true.
Some would say this show was based and founded upon that very premise.
No, the show used to be like, we used to have all these things like, the rugby league Nostradamus,
prophets,
and all that sort of thing.
Motherfucking prophets,
the prophets of rugby league, prophets of rugby league. Exactly. We used to get it right.
I fucked it up, but
and then now we're in the. Yeah, well, you started it with that Lottie Dikiri hat trick bullshit.
Undefeated.
Here comes stepdad with his nonsense. Oh, the undefeated, of course.
Because I don't need to check in whether that ever actually occurred.
Looking at both of those teams,
do the Broncos get their win? Do they get their win for the first 10 rounds or not?
Yes, they do, simply because in the first couple of games, the Broncos haven't actually had too much trouble scoring points. What they've had trouble with is keeping their opponents to scoring less points than they do, which I know sounds simple. Sounds like an obvious thing to fucking get good at if you're a professional sports team.
That was literally the Tim Sheen's West Tigers manual from like 2005 to 2011.
That's it. Whereas the Dogs haven't been able to defend or score points.
Yeah, the problem is if the Broncos have their good start that they've kind of been having this year, they've been starting fairly promisingly in games. The Dogs just don't have enough points in them to come back from any amount of that.
Correct.
If the Broncos can get maybe 12 points up, I don't know where the Dogs to win this game have to start strong because the Broncos are absolutely the biggest capitulating, folding team in the competition this year.
Yep.
When stuff starts going bad, one try can turn into 3 tries very quickly.
That's it.
Based on that record, though, if the Broncos win and then, as we discussed earlier, lose the next 7, they will have won the grand sum total of 1 game of rugby league in a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was against the Dogs. Is that really... imagine this. This is all we got to hang our hat on.
And it was the Dogs that time as well. Yeah.
Guys, this is all we've got to hang our hat on.
It's a no-lose situation for pundits like us, because if they win this game, the only games they've won have been against the Dogs over the last year.
Yeah.
So
I do think the Broncos win this game.
Suncorp Stadium and the points they've got in, and Broncos win.
Yep. And I say that with zero confidence. I mean, it could very well go badly for them as well. The Eels take on the Sharks. The Eels side, Papali'i comes in to replace Madison, who's concussed. Ray Stone to the bench. The Sharkies, Hiroti drops to the reserves. Connor Tracy's promoted to the starting centre, and Wilton on the bench. Andrew Fafita still outside of the 17.
Is he under an instruction to get fit?
Yes.
What's the situation?
He's he's currently sitting at home watching Black Klansman, trying to figure out how to deal with Hook.
Para by plenty in this game. Too many points, too strong in the middle.
Yeah. I think Parramatta will win the game. It won't be close like it was last week. It won't be goal kicking comes down to the difference. But I do think the Sharks do have that kind of ability in the side, or that kind of mentality where they're not going to capitulate and get absolutely slaughtered.
No, that's it. That's one thing that I said this last week. The Sharks don't go into any game lacking belief. Like, you can see teams that go into games at the moment. The Dogs go into games knowing they're going to get fucking raped. Mm-hmm. The Sharks still go in there thinking that they can bash anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think Parramatta are too strong in this one.
Big game. Newcastle Knights take on the West Tigers at McDonald Jones Stadium. Newcastle side, Kurt Mann returns to the halves. And that's the only change there. Phoenix Crossland was suspended for a crusher, so straight 1-for-1 swap there. The Tigers, James Roberts returns, and he at the expense of BJ Leilua. Zane Musgrove comes back from suspension, pushes Joel Fangawe to the bench, and Cheekham drops outside of the 17 along with Joey.
Does that fix your problems, Glenn?
That fixes one of the problems. I still don't know.
The West Tigers can't win this game.
There was a time once in my life where I would go into every game full of confidence and come up with plenty of reasons that I would recite back to myself as to why the Tigers could win every game they ever entered into. And that rarely happened. These days, I'm struggling to come up with reasons as to why I think they might actually win. The Knights at home, Brooks in some of the worst form of his career. The fact that the Knights don't have Ponga is probably something that is probably
a plus.
That's a plus for the Knights. Yeah.
We've established that this is a plus for them.
Fucking Tex Hoy, double hat trick.
Just with what's gone on over the first couple of rounds, I think that the Knights have a few players that the Tigers are going to struggle to contain. They're playing away from home. Newcastle's tough to beat at home regardless of the stage of the season or where they're sitting on the ladder at any time. I will put money on the Tigers to win, and I will put money on the Tigers to win by 13+, but only because I like to be a degenerate gambler that loses money.
Seems like you like to piss money down the fucking drain.
If you want to, I've got a contraption that will roll up your 50 and jam it firmly up your urethra. If your penchant is for burning money while you fuck yourself.
What do you call that contraption? I think it might be the episode title if you come up with the right name. No pressure.
It's called the third Leilua brother.
You didn't let me down.
So I'm just looking here. So if I go to my betting app and I multi Tex Hoy, Bradman Best, Frizzle into anytime try scorers.
No, don't get greedy. Make maybe instead of Frizzle, maybe go Mitch Barnett.
Okay, hang on, Frizzle. Mitch Barnett. Oh, Jesus Christ, you're just stuck with Frizzle if you don't want to be greedy.
It's a Suaso Sue revenge game though too.
So, Tex Hoy, Bradman Best, and Mitch Barnett anytime try scorers.
Yep.
Paying $25.50.
That's free money. You can bring down the betting industry with that one. There you go, boys. Oh, better than crypto.
That's it.
All right.
Newcastle by plenty.
It's 13 plus. How do you think Jimmy will go?
I think Jimmy, if he had any chance of getting early ball in a bit of space with a ball that was passed out in front of him that he could hit at speed, I think it would go exceptionally well. None of those things are going to happen.
He's dealing with Jacob Little and Luke Brooks. He's not going to get the ball in that position that you just described so eloquently.
There's more chance if Zane Musgrove was going to loft and offload from the middle of the field out to James Roberts' centre position, I'd probably have more faith. But I don't know. I have no confidence, zero confidence.
Cowboys take on the Titans up there at the abattoir. The Cowboys have Kyle Felt suspended, so he's out. So Murray Talangi comes in on the wing. The Titans, Ash Taylor is out with a hand injury, which brings Tanner Boyd into the halves.
I don't think the Cowboys have enough to get this done, considering what the Titans dished up last week, and their easy motivation of wanting to be at least the number one team in Queensland, before they start talking about being a dominant force in the NRL. It's a nice little quick goal that I'd have them on. In a similar way that they dealt with the Broncos, I think they're going to want to go out there and really stake their dominance in the forwards, and I expect them to do that convincingly and win the game very comfortably.
I'll tell you, how many lows, further new low watermarks can fucking Cohen Hess find in his career?
Yeah.
Remember when he burst onto the scene? He was like, holy fuck, he's a guy.
Yeah.
This is a fight. The Cowboys have unearthed another gem.
That's it.
Now, absolutely fucking useless.
Yeah.
He's like the bully that, everyone just worked out if you stand up to him, he goes away quietly. He was a force of nature when he first came in, his size and strength, but he's been found out, and I don't know that he's got an extra level in him to get back to where he was. So on this game, I think, much like Jay said, I think the excuse me, I think the Titans will be too good. Even without Ash Taylor, I think Jamal Fogarty,
Agreed.
I think he defers to Ash Taylor a lot. And I think, the opportunity for him to take a real leading hand in controlling the side, I think that'll hold the Titans in good stead. And forwards will control the middle, and they've got a few points in them, the Titans, so I think they'll win.
Okay, let's hit the mailbag for the week. First one I've got here is from Jordan. And he said, on the point of why so many union boys join league, I actually have a unique bit of insight into this. My dad was an Australian schoolboys coach in union and had a few boys approached by league clubs, especially Souths. The general advice to them was to take the NRL club offer and take advantage of the training facilities, as typically they were better than the stuff on offer in Super Rugby. They tell them if they want to play for the Wallabies, that union will always be there for them to come back to, but it would be stupid of them not to take the opportunity offered.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense.
So that makes
Yep.
total sense to me. Yep. I don't have any insight into rugby union junior coaching.
It's quite big in a couple of the private
add anything to
schools up here in Toowoomba. Although Toowoomba Grammar does have a lot more focus from the first 15 all the way down through the juniors, whereas a couple of the other schools, if you're not playing first 15, they couldn't give a fuck, which I think speaks to the lack of development, lack of facilities mentioned. And certainly if you look at, even some of the junior rugby league clubs and the TRL clubs in the seniors, some of the facilities, even here in Toowoomba, are really quite impressive that the players from juniors all the way through to the senior ranks have access to. And you compare that to the local rugby clubs in the seniors, they're struggling to field sides. So that would there's a fair bit of symmetry there from what he's saying. You can certainly see the money, which doesn't say a great deal, the money that's gone through union over the years through, Super Rugby and certainly through the national team, how there hasn't been more done to shore up, because, if there's schools, some of these private schools, you can't play rugby league. They don't offer it as a sport. So how they haven't tapped into that outside of a handful of, certainly in Queensland, a handful of schools in the state, with some of that sizable cash injection that's gone through the game at the highest levels over the years is fucking mismanagement.
Well, it's not really. If you talk about the fact that their entire business model depends on essentially elitism and, for lack of a better phrase, trying to keep the game pure from a certain socio-economic background point of view, and will obviously make exceptions for.
I was about to say there's
fair
few scholarships being doled out just here in this town for.
Yeah, no, that's it. But what they do there is they bring those talented kids to their game and bring them into that sealed off world inside the wall, instead of taking their game to those kids and those communities. And just based on numbers, if you have a talent pool that is based on exclusion, where you can only pick from a certain institute with kids, then eventually you will run out. It's simple math. So, in short, fuck them. They are where they deserve to be, on stand. The fucking West Tigers of streaming services.
Piece of shit.
Chapo, in this I'll let Glenn field this one. Is there a culture problem at the Tigers? Because every time they change coaches, the mentality of the team never changes, and it's more of the same when it comes to on-field performances.
So, very articulate question, Chapo. I'm very impressed by that. Yes, there is a cultural problem at the Tigers, and for all the flack that Michael Maguire has copped for moving Benji on, I think this is the sort of thing that needs to be done to actually make some serious movements towards changing the culture. Because I think there's also a culture amongst the fan base that, at large, that, because of the lack of success, for a decade now, it's part of the reason why the team's getting a standing ovation coming off at halftime of a trial game, and B, the general, whenever something goes wrong, like a powerful club might lose a couple of games and the fans are like, well, okay, they'll probably, right the ship and we'll be back on our way soon. Whereas the Tigers have lost a couple of games, everyone wants to burn the clubhouse down. So, I would say yes, even if the trolling was, the question was trolling in nature. Yes, I believe the culture is probably the biggest problem at the Tigers, because it then trickles down to the inability to attract high-level players that aren't damaged goods. And I think Maguire is the guy, but I also don't know whether the board are going to show the patience over the period of time required to turn that around.
How much time?
Well,
because this is year 3, right? So
yeah, look, and there's, I don't necessarily buy into all of the talk about, Ivan's roster this and, Cleary that. I think that, you've also got to be accountable and be able to coach what's in front of you and coach what you've got. And part of coaching is connecting with your playing group, and I think there's an element of that Maguire probably needs to exhibit, that he can do it well. I don't think he's done it 100% well during his tenure so far at the club, but I think winning changes the culture, sort of expedites that process, and we're in round 3, and I've just gone through a review of the upcoming game, and as a fan, I've got zero confidence. So I think we're a little way from winning the amount of games required to hit fast forward on the process of cultural change.
All right. So next question comes from Chewy. He said, if a new expansion club is to enter the competition, is it acceptable to change teams from one you've supported for 26 years asking for a friend?
Yes.
I can go for... Yeah, it is? Yeah.
Yes. I would suggest that is one of the only times that it is acceptable to change teams, given that you are then not supporting a rival of your other team. The other one would be that if you had some sort of actual moral stance against something your club's done. So for example, if people would have wanted to bounce off the Cowboys when they signed Robert Louis.
Yeah, right.
That's the other one. Or the Tigers for Justin Pascoe.
Yeah.
But that's got to happen immediately. You can't jump off the Cowboys now because you weren't happy with Luai. But yes, an expansion team is especially valid to get off. You will never wash the fucking Broncos stink off you, Chewy.
You got out a year too late because that spoon there is on you now. It's wedged firmly up your jacksie.
Correct. It's giving you a surly lap dance for all eternity.
Now, yeah, look, I agree with you 100%. I saw it happen when the Broncos came into competition. Mm-hmm. There were tons of people who, had retired or moved up to Brisbane, and they may have followed, the Dragons or whatever, and they're like, okay, now I've got a local team. I'm going to, segue over onto the local team. And, those people are kind of weak, but it's acceptable, I think, because, expansion teams need fucking fan bases. Mm-hmm. They got to come from somewhere, and they're certainly not going to draw them all from brand new people that have never experienced rugby league before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when the Titans came in. Think about it. I mean, much more recent example when the Titans came in. I mean, no doubt they grabbed probably a bunch of retiree Dragons fans from down the Gold Coast. Mm-hmm. Probably grabbed a bunch of Warriors ones as well. But I'd say the largest portion they would have, Gold Coast based or Gold Coast corridor based Broncos fans.
Yeah.
Who went to the side that was closer.
Yeah.
What's the process? Just this is not the same question, but I mean, what's the process if your club gets killed? You get a free slate to just pick any other team in the competition,
except a rival or bogey team for your old club. So, for example, if you were a Bears supporter, it is fucking gross if you support Manly.
I think it's actually imperative basically as a conquered entity, and you need to prostrate yourself.
Oh God!
Face to the fucking ground.
Do you mean prostrate?
Bow down. That's what I said. You need to prostrate yourself and bow down to your new master that vanquished you, and you must live as a conquered entity, and forevermore. And so specifically, Bears fans that may have switched to, the Sharks.
But what about if your club merges and the new controlling powers don't put enough white in the jersey of your newly merged entity?
Well, you fucking tell me. You're still supporting them.
Fuck you.
You are that person.
I've never been on the more white brigade ever.
Them.
And I live in Toowoomba.
Unless you're dealing with Malaysians.
So look back to the original question. Expansion team, of course, it's acceptable. I mean, it's kind of a stranger situation though for Chewy though, because he, without doxing him. I mean, he lives in Victoria, so it's not like he lives in Brisbane, sick of the Broncos, wants to move over to another Brisbane team. I mean, he's in fucking Victoria here, so it's not like he's supporting his next local team either. You know what I mean? It. And so I don't know if that puts any more loopholes into the scenario or not.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The other thing an expansion team does give you the opportunity to do is to have your kids support a different team.
Yep.
Than you.
Yep.
Like most kids should be fucking normal. Well, if they've got enough of their dad's DNA in them, that they will just naturally support. Nate obviously with Killer and me with young Arthur.
Don't do it.
If there was, let's say there was an expansion team, and you had moved from your local area when you were young, and you've moved to the area that an expansion team has come into.
Yep.
Okay for your kid to support that team, and okay for you to encourage that support to foster a love of live rugby league and and things like that. So that's the only acceptable instance for a child to not follow in their father's footsteps as well.
Can I just ask you a question, Glenn?
No.
Who does Leo support?
Mate, I have to be honest with you. Leo does not give a single solitary fuck about most things. He's focused solely on being the world's angriest human. And generally, the times in his brother's life when he was around this age that he was spent just glued watching rugby league and rugby league highlights and all the rest of it. Leo is basically plotting the death of his brother, and that's his path in life. I'm not going to judge the kid. I don't think it's healthy. I'm also too scared to bring it up with him because I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to end up with multiple stab wounds in my sleep.
Yeah, because you are at worst second on his list. At worst.
I would think me first, Daylight second, if I'm honest.
So have you not put into him the greatest way to annoy his brother would be for him to support the Tigers?
That's masterstroke. It's genius.
No, the thing is, his want to, and he's shown plenty of evidence by way of just randomly punching his brother in the face multiple times over the years and generally starting fights for no apparent reason other than the fact that his brother might be sitting in the wrong position in the house or something. He also balances that out by idolising his brother. It's kind of this weird dynamic they've got going on. Whereas Jackson's just a jerk to his younger brother from start to finish, no wavering. Leo's like, one day, am I going to randomly punch you in the face? Other times, I'll just sit next to you and just hug you for no reason other than you're my big brother. It's a reality TV show that was never made. It should have been. But Leo does not. The closest Leo has come is just in the last couple of weeks, and it pains me to say it because Jax and I were on the couch watching footy, and we're watching Panthers game, and Nathan Cleary was on the TV, and Leo obviously wanting to be a part of it, watching the game, talking about it or whatever. Leo wants to be a part of it, comes up. He goes, I like that guy, that number 7. I like him. I was like, he's done nothing. He's just literally was standing there. The camera was on him. Go number 7. Go number... Oh, shut up. I don't want to have to explain this to Jay. I'll never live this down. And here we are.
You will. You will live it down. Where were you born?
Nepean Hospital, my friend.
That's it. So a little bit of that got Nepeed into him.
Good times.
It's like, it's like when you throw a ball for the first time at a dog. It doesn't know why it wants to chase it.
Thank you for comparing my child to a dog. I appreciate it.
I'm saying it's got instincts.
Yes.
Okay, next one from Stephen. This is, I believe, a new caller to the show. He said, do you guys think it would be a good idea to post some photographic proof of your success with Manscaped products? Us listeners could contribute too. Not only would it help sell the brand, posting pictures of our shaved cocks, balls, and assholes could really bring the community together. Just my 2 cents.
I'm down. Apologies in advance.
I know you think you're being clever. But what that obviously means is you are not subscribed to our OnlyFans.
Yes. Aaron Marr. Oh, sorry.
Look,
yeah.
You know me. I got no problem.
I feel like yeah. Well, I mean,
you've been in message groups with me.
Yeah, you don't tend to post pictures of your balls and stuff like in regular. You don't show us the good times. You only show us the times when they're fucking severely lacerated.
And how many?
How many of those?
How many of those have I sent you since Manscaped?
Oh, well, 0.
Yeah. So lack of picture tells 1,000 words.
Yeah. I mean, but it sounds like what you're doing is exactly the opposite of what Stephen has suggested, though.
Yes, but look, do what you want, but don't get zucked in the Facebook. Remember, we are on Facebook. So
yeah. I mean, yes, tweet them to us, and we'll retweet it, and we'll get your balls out there to a captive audience. But Aaron said, regarding support for Luke Brooks, Matty Johns has actually been spotted at training helping him out. While his football's still shit, his telling of jokes that were only funny in the 1990s has improved immensely. I think he got the group sex instructions wrong also. It looks like he's the one getting fucked by 17 blokes every week.
Interestingly enough, until he went fucking pure Ma, which I love, the thing that got me there that thought, hang on, that might be a furphy, is that I do remember Matty Johns coming out and talking about how he runs his training. And so he can remain impartial. One thing he won't do is visit clubs. He makes all clubs fly who they want trained to his local oval.
Right.
Where he lives. So he won't attend your training session, but he will train your halves at his local.
Yeah, right.
And he does that in a bid to remain impartial. So, fuck, I tell you what, Tigers, wouldn't be a bad move. Get him some fucking help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, it's entertaining either way, isn't it?
That's it.
150 fucking games in. How much help do you need?
This show needs fucking content just as much as anything else. So,
but it's funny, and it's quite a serious point though. Like I'm lucky enough that I had a mentor say to me early on in my career. He said, how many years experience have you got here? And at that stage, I was like, 4. And he says, no, that's how long you've been here. How many years experience? Do you have 4 years experience? Or have you done 1 year 4 times?
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of went, ooh, I thought about that. And I really feel as if Luke Brooks has done, 1 season multiple times. He doesn't have multi-year experience. He's got a little bit of experience and he hasn't grown from there.
I wish you
You
had
need to send your mate. You need to call up the guy from your work and send him down there, because I mean, you know, you can give him that 150 games experience if you've done, you know, like one game 150 times, and then he puts him in the head fuck zone, and then he's like going, you know, believe, achieve, fucking whatever, done, and and that's the end of it. That's it. Full time for episode 384. Thanks for listening, everyone. As always, you can interact with us in a multitude of ways to access our Facebook group and all the links you need to get our tremendous community podcast, fucking links to the website, etc., etc. Just Google Twill Nation Linktree. It'll be a top result. Everything there you are going to need. Now, if you'd like to support the show, make sure you drop us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. And speaking of reviews, big week this week, my friends. We've got three reviews. First one comes from Disco J-Dog, and he's said, I didn't know Carl Pilkington had a podcast, 5 stars. And that was the title, and the text of the review is, are you a fan of rugby league? Do you like the Book of Mormon? Then boy, have I got a show for you. A godforsaken Falcons fan, a godforsaken Fat Britney fan, and a godforsaken Brisbane Lions fan swear about the antics of Justin Pascoe and the Players Union while furiously masturbating to their own team's fortunes. There used to be a Q&A with a lawyer, but she bailed, I assume, because most of the questions were either way too thirsty or about Star Wars movies she hadn't seen. The degenerates on social media who write in every week, hoping for their moment in the sun, are the X factor that ties it all together. Truly, this podcast is a refuge of the damned. This next one comes from Tubby1988, and he's entitled it Started with the Furries, 5 stars. My first episode happened to be the Furries episode. Absolute laughs were had from the get-go. Stayed for the great NRL content each week from the guys and an awesome Facebook community. Awesome to see the new format with 2 episodes. Great stuff, guys. And finally, Steve Was says classic, 5 stars. No holds barred, talked about everything rugby league. In-depth talk about everything from shaving your moose knuckle to the finer details of player positions, coaching decisions, matchups, off-field antics, games reviews, and too many to list. Great way to have a laugh and gain insight to the NRL. Listener discretion for Broncos fans.
How good.
Brilliant.
Outstanding. Now, memberships, they're not quite up yet. We've been emailing back and forth just to nail things down. I've got some final prices on the stuff now, so now I just need to compile it in amidst a very busy work week. But, yeah, it's all ready to go. I've put the production places on notice that here's the designs, and this is how many of each we're probably going to need. Mm-hmm. So we're ready to hit the button. I've just got to basically throw them up there. And the rework of the digital membership stuff, that's going to happen at some point this week, maybe on the weekend at the latest. It's been a bit of back and forward. We've just been trying to to make the decisions,
we've got it down.
Need to be made.
We've got some. We're going to do it a little bit differently this year. There are going to be different tiers that you can subscribe to. That will get you increasing rewards, including merch. Mm-hmm. And there is one merch item that we're going to put in there that a lot of people have been crying for a return of for a very long time. So this should make a lot of you cunts very happy. Yep.
And also, and it's not just merch and stuff as well. I mean, obviously there's the extra content as always.
Yes.
And there'll be more of that coming as well. Plus, also, that big weekend that we have down there on Grand Final weekend. Another event to be added.
Cross fingers.
Yep. Provided everyone can keep their filthy little mouths away from filthy little bats. And that's it. That is all we have time for this week. That's all I've got on my list. Anything else you want to add, fellas, before we pull the pin?
Said all I need to say. Not confident about the Tigers.
Spurton for Burton.
That's it. See you on Sunday.
See ya.